All right, so get ready, because today we're diving into something that really blew up online.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it all started with this kind of simple question on Reddit.
Reddit, okay.
It was on the Ask Men Advice subreddit, and this woman wanted to know if being, accomplished would actually intimidate men.
Okay, interesting. So like a high-achieving woman.
Exactly. And the responses, let me tell you. It
Yeah.
was whoa, everyone had an opinion.
I can imagine.
It totally opened up this Pandora's box of thoughts and feelings.
I bet. Well, and that's kind of what's so interesting to me, just looking at this. It's the sheer range of reactions you get.
Oh, totally.
It clearly struck a nerve, like a major nerve.
Yeah.
With some men, they're like, success, that's awesome, that's attractive.
Right.
Others are just like, whatever, I don't care. And then there's the ones who are like full-on intimidated, turned off even.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to untangle today. Right, is a woman's success a good thing or a bad thing in the dating world?
A green flag or a red flag.
Exactly. We're going to dive into all these different perspectives. And trust me, some of these comments are going to make you think.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with the guys who, they admitted to being intimidated.
Okay, yeah.
There's this one commenter who talked about feeling lesser, if the woman he was with was more accomplished.
Interesting.
And he even brought up this concept called hypergamy.
Oh, hypergamy. Yeah.
Which I feel like we should explain.
Yeah. Maybe not everyone knows that one.
Yeah, it's basically this idea that people are, attracted to those they see as higher status.
Right. So in the simplest terms, we're kind of subconsciously looking for partners who are at least on our level, if not higher.
Yeah.
In terms of things like, I don't know, social standing, success, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so for this guy, he's worried that a really accomplished woman would be like, oh, you're not good enough for me.
Yeah, exactly. She'd see him as below her in this whole, mating hierarchy or whatever.
Cool, so it's not even about money necessarily.
Not always, no.
It's about this hierarchy thing.
Yeah, exactly. And, it ties back to societal expectations too.
Oh, for sure.
This whole idea that men should be the providers.
Right.
Well, that can make some guys feel I don't know, insecure or something when they're with a woman who's already killing it in that area.
Right, she doesn't need him.
Exactly.
But then you also had guys who were the total opposite.
Oh, yeah.
They were all about a partner's success.
Okay.
They saw it as a huge positive.
Interesting.
One guy even said he'd love a CFO wife.
A CFO wife?
Yeah, to help him get financially stable.
Wow. So they're almost flipping the script, right? Her success is a benefit, not a threat.
Totally. It's not just this simple equation,
Yeah.
Successful woman equals intimidating. Nope.
Definitely not that simple.
For these guys, it's more about finding someone on the same wavelengths.
Yeah, similar drive, ambition, that kind of thing.
But here's where things get even more interesting. Okay.
I've read. Lay it on me.
A lot of the comments weren't even about accomplishments, really.
Oh, okay. So what were they about?
It was more about the attitude they thought successful women had.
Attitude. Interesting.
Yeah, it was this whole, it's not you, it's me. Or maybe it's your personality thing.
Ah, the old personality dilemma.
Right. One guy straight up said most successful women he knew were insufferable.
Ouch. That's harsh.
Yeah, kind of makes you think about those stereotypes,
Like that whole ruthless businesswoman thing.
Yeah, all ambitious and driven, but maybe not so warm and fuzzy.
Right, but is that fair?
Yeah.
Or is it just a lazy stereotype we all fall back
That's
on?
a good question, right?
It is.
Are men intimidated by success itself? Or by the personality that, sometimes comes with it?
That is a really good question.
Right. It's do we judge people based on their achievements?
Or do we look past those labels and see the whole person?
Exactly.
And that's something I think anyone dating should think about. Not just men.
Yeah, for sure.
Are we really seeing each other? Or are we just seeing the resume?
So, okay, we've got men who are intimidated, men who are attracted to success, and then this whole personality thing.
A lot going on.
What else jumped out from those comments?
Well, one thing that kept coming up was the importance of traits kindness,
Okay.
respect, loyalty,
Mm-hmm.
basically saying that character is more important than career success.
Yeah. There were a lot of comments like that.
Yeah.
One guy, he was very clear. He valued good morals and being a good wife to his kids more than any kind of job or anything.
So it's even in this modern dating world, those traditional values are still really important.
It is interesting, right?
It is.
But then there was this one comment that kind of threw a wrench in the whole thing.
Oh. What was that?
It was about how divorce rates are higher for women who are more accomplished.
Ooh, yeah, I remember that one. That sparked some debate.
It did.
And it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean successful women just have higher standards?
Yeah, maybe they're not willing to settle.
Right. Or are there other things going on, societal factors? Who knows?
That's a good question, you know?
It is.
I mean, if you're a woman who's already achieved a lot, you probably have more options, right?
Right. You're not stuck because you need someone to support you.
Exactly.
So maybe you're more likely to leave if you're not happy.
And that brings up a whole other layer to this, you know?
Yeah,
Like how women's roles are changing and how that affects relationships.
for sure. And we're going to get into that more a little bit later.
Okay, so we've got intimidation, attraction, personality clashes, core values, and even divorce rates all tied up in this.
It is a lot.
Right. And we haven't even talked about the whole girl boss thing
Oh, yeah, the girl boss.
and how men see that. So that's another angle we'll explore next time.
Can't wait.
But before we move on, just a quick reminder to everyone listening.
Yeah.
If you're liking this whole discussion, head on over to Shauna Pelage's YouTube channel
Okay.
and the Voices of the Soul podcast. Subscribe and check out all the other stuff we do.
Sounds good.
And while you're there, don't forget to like and share this, tell your friends.
Start some conversations.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we dive into the next part, let's take a minute and just think, okay,
Right.
if you were the woman who posted that original question, what would be your biggest takeaway from all this? Like, what really stood out to you? Hold on to that thought, and we'll be back soon to talk more.
Okay.
Picking up where we left off, it's amazing to me how much this Reddit thread really shows, that tension
Oh, totally.
between those traditional gender roles and how relationships are actually changing today.
It's like two worlds colliding.
It is.
You've got these like deep-seated ideas about men being the providers and women taking care of the home.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you've got all these women who are like breaking those molds and achieving incredible things.
And it seems like it's making some men wonder, wait, where do I fit in now?
Right. Like if she doesn't need me to support her, what does that mean for us?
Exactly. And you saw that in some of those comments.
For sure. Like some guys are definitely feeling a little insecure about it.
Like their worth is tied to being the breadwinner, and then suddenly that's not the only way to be valuable.
Yeah, it challenges the whole system.
It does.
But then you've got the guys who are like drawn to that ambition.
Right.
They see it as a good sign. Like we're compatible.
They're not threatened. They're excited by it.
Yeah. It's almost like they're speaking two different dating languages.
Two different languages. I like that.
Right. One's all about tradition, and the other's about shared goals and drive.
And figuring out how to translate between those two can be tricky,
Totally.
especially when you add in that whole personality thing we talked about.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's one thing to admire someone's success, but it's a whole other level to actually click with them as a person.
It's got to be both, right?
It does. And it's interesting.
Yep.
A lot of those comments that emphasized those traditional values like kindness and loyalty,
Yeah.
they often came from the men who also seemed to have a more, shall we say, old-fashioned view of relationships.
That's a good point. Like those values are important to them.
It is fascinating, isn't it? Like, even when things are changing, some things stay the same.
Maybe it's not about who makes more money,
Maybe not.
but more about finding someone who you share values with.
Someone who wants the same kind of life.
Yeah, who's going to build that life with you based on respect and all that.
Would you agree with that?
Totally. And it goes beyond gender,
Of course.
It's about everyone being on the same page.
It's about more than just a paycheck. It's about finding someone who sees you and your accomplishments,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't feel threatened. They see it as part of who you are.
Okay, now what about that idea that successful women have higher expectations?
Oh, yeah, good point. A few guys mentioned that.
Like they were worried they wouldn't measure up.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to that hypergamy concept.
Right. If you're successful, you want someone who's on that same level.
You're looking for someone who challenges you, inspires you.
But I can see how that could be intimidating,
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you define yourself differently.
Yeah. Or if you're not as far along in your career.
It's a tough balance to strike, for sure.
It is. And I remember one guy used this phrase. He said he wanted a win-win collaboration.
A win-win collaboration. I like that.
Not a win-win transaction.
That's a great way to put it.
It's not about keeping score. Right.
No, it's about building something together.
And supporting each other.
Celebrating the wins, big or small.
Yeah. So maybe it's not about accomplished women versus not, or even men versus women.
Maybe it's about something bigger.
Like, what does it mean to be in a real partnership today?
Exactly. And the truth is that idea of partnership is changing.
All the time, right?
In the last part of our deep dive, we're going to talk about those changes,
Okay.
how society's shifting, and what it means for relationships.
Sounds good. I'm ready. All right, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into this Reddit thread about accomplished women. And, it's really got me thinking about, like, the bigger picture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like how these personal experiences kind of reflect these, like, huge changes happening in society.
It's like we're caught in this push and pull, right? Between what we've always known and what's coming next.
Exactly. Like you see so many women breaking barriers now,
Mhm.
right? They're financially independent, leading companies, the whole 9 yards.
And
And yet we still have this, like, wage gap, and there's still this pressure on women to, like, do it all.
have it all, right?
Yeah, like career, family, everything.
And it makes you wonder, what does having it all even mean anymore? It's like the definition keeps changing.
It totally does, and I think that's where some of the friction comes in,
Yeah.
both for individuals and for couples,
Yeah.
These shifting expectations. It's a lot for everyone to handle.
It is. It is. And as those expectations change, well, so do relationships.
Right.
And I think about that comment about divorce rates being higher for successful women.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
It was. What do you think's going on there?
Honestly, I don't know for sure, but I wonder if it means that women who are successful are just, I don't know, more willing to walk away from something that is working.
Makes sense. If you've already achieved a lot in one area of your life,
Right.
maybe you have higher standards for other areas, You're not going to settle.
Especially if you don't have to, right? Like if you're not depending on someone financially.
Exactly. It becomes less about needing someone and more about wanting them, about finding a real partner.
A true equal partnership.
Yes. And that brings us back to something we've touched on before, which is communication.
Oh, that's huge.
It's essential in any relationship, but especially now when everything's changing so fast.
Totally.
Couples need to be able to talk honestly about what they expect,
Mm-hmm.
about their values, their goals, what they want out of life.
Both individually and together.
Right,
As-
absolutely. Like, what does partnership even mean to them? How do they define success, both as individuals and as a couple?
It's about finding what works for them, not for, society or tradition or whatever.
Right. It might mean challenging those old roles, being flexible, really listening to each other.
As we wrap this up, I keep thinking that maybe this whole debate isn't really about men versus women.
Or about accomplishments versus traditional roles.
Yeah, like maybe it's about something bigger,
Maybe it's about this fundamental shift in how we view relationships.
like moving away from those rigid categories.
Exactly. And instead, trying to really understand what it means to be an equal partner.
It's about recognizing that everyone brings something different to the table.
And that those differences are good things.
Yeah. A true partnership, it's about celebrating those differences, supporting each other's growth.
And building a life together based on respect and understanding.
Beautifully said. So it's not about finding someone who fits into a box.
No boxes.
It's about finding someone who sees you for who you truly are, accomplishments and all,
And who chooses to walk beside you every step of the way.
as an equal, as a partner.
Yes.
And that's a really powerful message.
Whiz.
And if you want to keep thinking about all this, continue the conversation, come on over to Shauna Pollardge's YouTube channel
Check it out.
and the Voices of the Soul podcast. Subscribe, like, share this with your friends.
Let's keep talking about these important things.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
It's been great.